All right, we back with some original content. So for those folks that like that kind of stuff, we're going to be talking about why the market is likely to experience a few weeks of weakness. Now, this is just my theory, so don't take it as gospel, but it is based on gamma positioning in the VIX. And into the window of weakness, what happens is there's a window of weakness. If you go to my Discord here and look at the pinned section here, there is actually a calendar, and I'm going to go over this as well. These are actually really good. I'm going to open these up here. We can go over those. It's going to be explaining the gamma exposure charts a little bit better. So someone put together a really nice chart for everybody. And then here's the Vanna and charm flow. So this is what I really want to talk about, is this window of weakness using essentially dealer positioning. And there is, these weeks going into OPEX that are stronger, where you're going to get the bounces, you're going to get the V shapes, you're going to get the holding of the lows, you're going to get the melt up sort of effect, and then you got the window of weakness that is basically after midway through OPEX into the next week into end of month. So that's exactly where we are right now. We're basically right here. You could already see VIX-X was right here, and that was essentially the start of the weakness. If you go look at a chart, which is crazy to think about, right? I mean, I'm going to get rid of some of this other stuff here. So window of weakness essentially started August 16th. What was August 16th? Well, you guys can go get this indicator here. Okay, well, it was August 18th, whatever, VIX-X. But you can see the market started coming down right there in the middle of OPEX week. So here was OPEX, right? Here was Wednesday, which was VIX expiration. And that's where the market started to turn. Now, basically, almost this whole entire rally in the chat, I was saying, look, 817 is the next date. 817 is the next date for the turn. And, it was just like, no matter what the market, whatever the news threw at the market, it was just like, it was nonstop up, right? It was just this boom, boom, just so methodical. And so that's when the turning point came, and that's where we're looking at here as far as this little calendar here. We're looking at a window of weakness. Now, the reason is, it says Vanna and Charm are on a holiday. Why are they on a holiday? Well, because Vanna and Charm are essentially time and volatility-based flows. And those flows are coming from dealer hedging. And the dealer hedging doesn't need to start until we start getting into week 1 and week 2, heading back into the expirations of the options. Now, if all this is not making sense to you, I get it, because it hardly makes sense to me, and I've been working with it for a long time. But I'm going to go through my theory here, and we're going to kind of use this as our guideline into the end of the month, why this week is going to be fairly weak, into next week, possibly a little bit of weakness into the next week. And then we're going to start seeing these V shapes and some strength going back into, essentially going into September and back into, OPEX week again. So going into the VIX chart, now this is the net GEX for the next 98 days. This chart is basically showing you the gamma positioning for each expiration. Now it's all colored, right? So we got this week, we basically just have a little bit of gamma exposure kind of up the chain here a little bit. So this is going to be the call GEX. Then you've got your put GEX here, and right around this wall, which is going to be essentially just like in this sense, it's going to be a put wall, which is going to act as a super strong resistance and or magnet level. So I'm basically saying, there's not a lot of gamma exposure here on the downside for this week. So I would expect weakness, because there's not going to be those Vanna flows that we're all used to. So we're looking at this chart here, Vanna and Charm on vacation. Why is Vanna on vacation? Well, it's because the dealers don't need to start hedging see how big these gamma exposure levels are, but that's not until September 21st. Okay, that's not until the next VIX expiration, which is around this time. So dealers, they don't need to start hedging until what's that date here? So we're looking at week 4 into the end of the month. So we don't even need to worry about the Vanna flows. So there's no Vanna flow coming at least until September 1st at the most, and then maybe we got September 21st, maybe even a week later. So you got up until maybe September 12th where there's not a lot of Vanna flows. So that means that it's called the window of weakness. That's what they call it, a window of weakness, because the Vanna flows are coming from that volatility suppression, which just kills volatility. So that you just cannot go down because the dealers are essentially hedging out. They're hedging their VIX positions. Okay, so they don't need to start doing that, because if they're hedging gamma exposure to the downside, that means that VIX is getting suppressed. That's my theory right now. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I've had some conversations about this already with some folks, and I've been trying to understand this chart here and why it works the way it does. So now we're talking about volatility being suppressed, but then what happens is as we get closer to the expirations, the Vanna comes back, right? Because the dealers they're hedging their VIX positions to the downside, so they start hedging those. So that suppresses volatility and charm. So because the charm is starting to become an effect, those positions are also being affected by the fact that there's theta. They're expiring. It's getting closer to that period of time where these things are going to start expiring. So you got a situation here where you got the window of weakness coming into the middle of September, basically 1 month. But you got a couple weeks here where it's just going to be sort of gyration is what I expect. I don't think it's going to be just like a free fall. If we were a free fall, we would already be way down, because if you look at, I haven't even looked at this, but I imagine if we looked at the volume profile, since the last VIX, there you go. So you got a point of control here at 41.25. You do have a little bit of small volume here that was built up here since the last GEX, but you do have some support here. So don't expect free falls going into these levels, but I do expect weakness. I do expect more of like a sell the rip type of scenario versus trying to sell the lows. You'd probably want to wait for bounces, and those bounces will likely get sold. So, and the idea behind that, my theory in that, is that the bounces get sold, and it keeps the market up. So I actually expect more gap ups and sells versus just gap downs and sells. And in this case, we gap down for the week, which is obviously, if you're a bear, that's really good. But I expect this probably gets bought up again and then sold, and then bought up again and then sold. It'll end up breaking the lows, but not from the lows. They'll want to probably bring it up. And I don't know who they is, but I'm just talking about just the way the market works. You probably want to bring it up, get more people in so that they can liquidate again into the strength. And so I would expect sell the strength probably until these flows start showing up again somewhere at the beginning of the month, which is obviously end of month balancing, and then beginning of month flows start coming in, and couple that with the Vanna and charm start to kick in. Charm probably won't start kicking in until about a week before OPEX. You don't have to really worry about that, but that's when it's going to be like a really strong week. You don't want to be short those weeks, and then you want to be really cautious 2 weeks, the 2 weeks before that expiration comes in. So looking at that, we do have a lot of gamma exposure to the upside. So this is a little bit of a different chart than coming into summer. So there is a chance, depending on how this looks a few weeks before the expiration, if they've already hedged all of the downside, then I would expect actually volatility to expand into the expiration. So it just depends on how the positioning plays out in a few weeks. But as of right now, this is what the picture looks like, and this is what I'm planning for as far as the overall general market there, as far as the indexes go. So the way I'm playing it is I'm kind of staying away from trying to short any kind of low on the index or like some of the bigger funds, but I will look to short the rips. And see how that plays out. If it doesn't play out the way I'm planning it in the first, because this is the week that we got to really see if these sell the rip, if we're sell the rip regime right now, and if that's not working out, I'm definitely not going to keep doing it. But I essentially would like to be shorting some of the garbage stocks like meme stocks. I think those are going to see a lot of weakness. So we're short GameStop. We're going to look at shorting AMC. We're just going to kind of keep an eye on those, and then we're going to be long energy, which we're looking at oil here. Oil really hasn't done anything for a while. But we could definitely see some kind of big day coming out of oil, I would think, if my theory is playing out correctly. So if we see big days in oil, we see the rips being sold in the indexes, I'm going to be short some of the stocks that are not inside the index, essentially, and we'll be looking at selling the rips on some of the indexes and some of the bigger stocks like Tesla, Google. Maybe even look at Apple. I don't really like to short Apple just because it is such a strong stock. But if I do start seeing some breakdown there, we'll be looking at that as well. So, yeah, hopefully this video helps you out in the next couple weeks. And if you like this kind of thing, I'll keep you updated on it. Maybe we'll look at next week and see kind of how this played out, and if we're still going to stick with this similar theme, or if we're going to try and switch gears into basically the third week before OPEX. So we're fourth week out. We're going to look at the third week, and then second week we'll probably have to change game plans again. So again, if you like this, make sure to let me know. That way I'll keep doing the videos. Anyways, peace.